Hello, welcome to the Creators Guild podcast. I'm Chris Howell, and with me,
Jared Lovelady.
and we're here to talk about all things creative. And as always, go get book one, Flight from Shadows. Still out there, still amazing to us, hopefully amazing to anybody who's read it. We are making progress on book two. We got through another chapter just last night.
Yes.
Yay, us. I'm sure Liz is like, these guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Because she's supposed to have it already. What, like 3 weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago, at least, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Liz. We'll get there slowly. Someday.
Sooner than later.
Yeah. But we are making progress. There is, coming up into May, we will be in Springfield at Tremendicon, right?
Yes.
I mix up which one's which.
Extremicon is in September.
Yeah, Streamicon September. So we will be at Tremendicon in Springfield. We'll have a booth. We actually got in the author's row this time.
Yes.
So it was okay being around the artists last time, but we were the only people with books. I don't know if that helped us or hurt us.
Yeah, I don't know.
But this time we will actually be around other authors. So that'll be nice. So look up Tremendicon, come see us. Hopefully there'll be some other Writers Guild people. There were, did I just totally?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, we're still good. I'm kicking under the table and I just knocked the camera. So for those on video, you just got to see me shift all over the place. Yeah, so we'll be at Tremendicon end of May, that last Friday in May, 1st and 2nd of June. We'll be up there. Come see us. There'll be a lot of that's where we've met a lot of authors and other creators at cons, and hopefully we'll meet some more this year, and hopefully we'll do what we planned on doing last year, and we'll start actually scheduling with people and having them come on the show and talk about what they do, what they're creating, especially local people. We want to get local people live and have them come chat with us. So that's the goal. That's the plan. And we haven't followed through on it yet.
We're working.
This is a new year. As we've said many times, if only we didn't have to have jobs.
Yep.
Right? But we do have jobs, and that takes up time. So we're doing what we can, and we're still having fun. And that's the important thing. If it's not fun anymore, then it's stupid. And we don't want to do stupid. We want to do fun. Speaking of fun, you can see, for those on video, I've got Lynn Combs' book up here with me today. We've talked about this before, but now we actually have copy in hand. And since it's out, I can show you. Lynn couldn't show you the stuff inside before, so I'm not going to go through and read it, and I'm not going to spoil everything, but Duncan the Dragon finds his fire. Go get it and get it on Amazon if you're local. Or you can go to lynncombs.com. Is it Lynn Combs or Author Lynn Combs?
Author Lynn Combs.
Author Lynn Combs. Go to Author Lynn Combs. You can find her book. I don't know if she sends out signed copies. I think she does. But you can also find her here locally, and she'll sign her book for you there. Sign it for your kids. She does look on her website. She'll have some stuff, schedules she's trying to get, where she's doing some readings in classrooms, libraries, and stuff like that with kids, and getting involved in some reading groups. So that's really cool. Yeah, go check her out. Go get the book. Another thing coming up this summer for anybody in around the Springfield area. Gosh dang it, I did it again. I got to stop moving my feet. I need to tie my feet to the chair. No touchy. For those in the Springfield area, the Writers Guild will be at the Farmers Market this summer. So we will be there starting the third week of May, and then the third week of every month during the summer months and going into the fall. There will be local authors at the Springfield Farmers Market at the Battlefield Mall. You can go there, find authors. There'll be different authors featured each month. We'll have some events where we do readings. We might do some writing contests and invite the local community to come in and write. And a lot of good produce. Jared and we've talked about it on here before. We do stuff at the farmers market. We help sell produce and pick produce and work not as hard as our family and friends do that do most of the more heavy backbreaking stuff. But hey, we put a lot of sweat and stuff into that every year too. So go to the farmer's market, get some good produce, listen to some music, get all fresh, good stuff, and come by and check out local authors and pick up some books from local talent that are honing their skills and improving their crafts and have books that are published right here in Springfield. We have Lynn Combs' book, Duncan the Dragon Finds His Fire, today because we wanted to dive in a little bit today and talk about children's literature. And actually, we talked a little bit about it with Lynn when she was on. There's a lot of stuff that goes into children's literature that I did not know about. Like if you are looking at, there's certain publishers, there are very, very, very specific criteria that writing, depending on the age group and the type of book you're producing, specific criteria that it's got to be a specific word count or a specific number of words per page, specific number of phrases. So they're going for, an age group of early readers, kids just learning to read, and mostly their parents are reading to them. There are formats that, like, if you're going to tell a story, if they're like, we want 347 words, it can't be 345 words, can't be 349 words. They want 347 words.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever that criteria is. If it's, you want to do a picture book where there aren't any words, it's just pictures and you're doing illustrations. Depending on who's publishing, who's hosting it, you have to have X number of pages, and it has to be this size. And there's a content level that goes into determining whether your illustrations or whether your work passes their criteria. Where they're like, nope, that's too many colors on one page. That's not enough colors on one page. That's the wrong type of, whatever it is. Really easy to get rejected in going through publishing houses in children's literature. I didn't know that.
No, yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot to it.
Yeah. There's in the Writers Guild, there's a children's literature group, and the first time I went, I'm like, I have some children's books that I've written. I wrote them a long time ago. Haven't got them published yet. I had them all illustrated at one point, lost the proofs for my illustration, everything. So now I've got to redo it. But I took it into the writers group and I shared it, and they were like, oh, this is really good. Now let's pull out the red pens and let's crap all over this. Not that it was bad, but it's like, nope, it's got to be exactly this. Oh, you're doing this in rhyming format. You can't have near rhymes. Like, I know there might be some publishers that you can do, like, there are some publishers that will let you get away with near rhymes. And a near rhyme would be, I walked in the woods, and there I stood. Well, woods and stood don't rhyme. So there are some publishers that will be like, wood rhymes with stood. Woods does not rhyme with stood. So you have to rewrite it to make it actually rhyme. Mike, have you ever read Shel Silverstein? He's very successful. So it's not the case universally, but I did not know some of the strict things that go into specific requirements, and it's unique. Some of it's unique by age group, target demographic, And some of it's specific to publishing house and how they handle the different children's approach to children's literature, and like I said, is it a picture book? Is it a chapter book? Is it a little board book? Is it just learning to read? Is it kids that have limited vocabulary? You can't put the word, excruciating in a book that's for an early reader for 4-year-olds. That's more like see, spot, sit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, spot, sit. Spot sits on cactus. Excruciating. Like, wow, that escalated quickly. It could be humorous. You can't put it in the kids' book. Not like that. So we've talked with Lynn a little bit. Some of the stuff she went through trying to get her book published. But if you don't want to go the traditional route, if you want to have a little bit more flexibility, you still probably should look up some of those rules, look up some of the target themes, some of those target guidelines that they use, because if you decide you want to publish on your own, you can totally do that. You can use Amazon publishing, or you can use different publishing services that will do a great job publishing your book, getting your work out there, letting your stuff reach, seeing it come to life on the page. There's a lot to be said for that. Even if nobody ever buys it, you have it on your shelf and you're like, this is my book. Mm-hmm. Still a lot to be said even for that. But if you want to go the route where you're doing it yourself, it's still a good idea to look and compare what is out there and what am I targeting. One of the things, Jared, did you ever read as a kid? I don't know if it was, well, I guess it would have been around when I was a kid. They had we had a book that was, I don't know how many pages, but it was like bigger than 8.5 by 11 book. And it was like not really a ream of paper thick, but it was half a ream of paper thick. And it was all like, all the, up to that point, all the Disney stories, Disney movies in story form. And even like Fantasia and Donald Duck and Bugs Bunny. And well, I guess those, the Disney ones, not Bugs Bunny, but Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and different things like that.
Yeah.
All in story form. And I remember as a kid having this big book, and I would like to open it up and look at the pictures of the characters that I was familiar with. I don't know anybody that actually read any of the stories in those books. Because
they were individual books. They were big, like that, 8.5 by 11 or whatever, but they were real thin. And they were the individual stories, simplified.
Yeah, we had some of those too. But even those, did you ever actually read the words of those stories?
Yeah, we read them as kids.
So
those were our bedtime story things.
I don't know what it even when I was young, I would start to read that and I'd be like, boring. Where I'm like, when I got older and I look back and I got some of those books, and we had some of those books that either ones we'd gotten or had been given to us for our kids. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be like, okay, we're going to read. Let's go pick out some books. Okay, we're going to read. Here's this Shel Silverstein book. We're going to read some poems, or The Giving Tree. Here's some Dr. Seuss books. We're going to read The Cat in the Hat, and we're going to read Fox in Socks. And it could be anything. It could be, here's a book that's just Puff the Magic Dragon in story form. And inevitably, it was, here's the book for Sleeping Beauty. And I'm like, there's 800 words on every page.
Yeah.
Reading Cat in the Hat, and it was it was cold and wet on that cold, cold day, too cold and wet to go out to play. Whatever that beginning is, to go out to play. That's it. That's the words on the page. Or you read Fox and Socks, and it's like, the Fox and Socks, Socks on Fox, Fox and Box on Fox on Rocks, and, all the tongue twister rhyme. It's like 3 lines long.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss, some of, like, you read, the places you'll go, and it might have a little bit of extra lines, but it's still read pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You're reading, the places you'll go. You've got brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Turn the page. And then you open, okay, we're going to read Sleeping Beauty. And it's like, Sleeping Beauty was born a little baby and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, did an engineer write this? Were they like, okay, we need to turn this into, we need to summarize this and put it into a story. Oh, who's good at summarizing? Carl in engineering? Yeah, he always puts our presentations together. He's excellent at summarizing. Okay, we'll have him write this up. And then someone was like, did Carl write that? Yeah. Has anybody checked it? Well, the spelling's all right. Yeah, good enough. Throw it in the book. Gosh.
Yeah, some of them are quite wordy. Some of those children's books. And they tend to always have the best illustrations.
Yeah.
So that would draw a kid.
Yes.
And you'd be like, oh, I've been up since 4 a.m. and
yeah, so my kids, we would read the stories, quote unquote. Some of my kids are across the room right now. They never once, ever, from me at least, got the story that was written in the book. They got, okay, well, this is the summarized version of the story to put into the book. Now you're going to get Daddy's Reader Digest version of the story that's in this book, just explained to you by what's in the pictures.
Yeah, I did a lot of that too. I think all parents do.
Yeah. I mean, I never, because just me reading some of the words and I'm like, oh no, I can't get through this because it is absolutely not enjoyable to read. Like we could open up the page. We've got Lynn's book here. If we open it up, look, isn't that a great picture? And then the equivalent reading some of those books would be like, okay, I'm going to hold up this picture and now I'm going to read from this other book and be like, aardvark. Read the definition of aardvark, an armadillo. Just it wouldn't, or I could open it up and start reading Adam Askins, 555-116-2237. Adam, read the phone book, read the dictionary, because it's just as entertaining and just as well told as the words written to go with those picture books.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. There's some that they summarized well and did well, but a bunch of them, terrible. So, maybe other people can have, you're entitled, people, you're entitled to your own opinion. Just remember that mine's right. But there are a ton of books that I read as a kid. Thinking back, like all kinds of different books. I started really, really young. One of the ones that I still like them today. If I would love to get the whole collection. I just haven't. Get them all and have them all today. And it's The Busy World of Richard Scarry books. And it's everything, it's one of them is what do people do all day? And it's like stories about people going and doing little jobs and stuff like that. I remember seeing the whole world, people, like it was animals driving apples and driving carrots on wheels, and you'd go through the books, and on every page you try to find the little yellow bug. He would be hiding somewhere. in somebody's pocket or behind the corner.
I read those books.
Yeah, I loved those books. I would get them today and still enjoy them today. And they're so simple. The adventures of Lowly Worm. The little worm who doesn't have any arms and he has one shoe because he's a little worm. But I remember seeing that, or there's a meme out there somewhere that is, someone is like, I'm so disappointed with how, like, it's somebody laying on a couch talking to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and it's, I'm so disappointed in how the world has totally failed my expectations. And then the psychiatrist is like, well, what exactly were your expectations? And then the expectations is a page out of The Busy World of Richard Scarry. I'm like, exactly. That's what it should be. So, who even? Yeah, all of I've got it up on my computer in front of me here, and you can't see my computer, but that's okay. Just everything in the books, like the pictures were so engaging, all the little things, all the little details, the little what we would call Easter eggs today.
Yeah.
And then The Busy World of Richard Scarry had a show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I loved that too. That was awesome too. It was literally the books come to life. The same drawing format, the illustration format, everything. They didn't, I don't like a lot of the animation today where they've remade the characters. I don't like the way they look anymore. Like I used to love Garfield and Friends, and then they made Garfield and Friends like the bubbly, where they're like, I'm like a balloon animal, moving, robotic movement balloon animal character. I'm like, Garfield wasn't like that. The new ones are stupid. Go back to the original. And that's what I liked when they took Busy World of Richard Scarry and made it into a cartoon. It was literally like the pictures just came to life. Another one, Mercer Mayer. I had a ton of Mercer Mayer books. If I ever had any money when I was a kid, when they'd have the book fair, the Scholastic book fairs, I didn't get to get stuff very frequently at the Scholastic book fairs at the school. Mm-hmm. But in elementary school, even all the way up, even through like fifth grade, part of it in fifth, I started reading, like I read Lord of the Rings and Madeline L. Ingle, the Wrinkle in Time books. I started reading those in third grade. I started reading the Lord of the Rings books. I first was introduced to those in third grade. But when I went to the Scholastic book fair, all the way up even in like fifth grade in elementary school, I would still buy Little Critter books. And his always had, what did he have? There was a little spider. It wasn't on every page, but there was there's one, the little spider and the little mouse. That's what they were. So I've got it up on here. One of them is I Just Forgot. Like, I still relate to Little Critter. Like the story, I remember the story of I Just Forgot or Just a Nap. I'm like, I still relate to I Just Forgot and Just a Nap. Both of those. Little Critter is like, if someone was like, what's your spirit animal? That's Little Critter from Little Critter books. I don't know age-wise if those two align with each other. So that's one of the things from if you're going to create a story, I don't know if Little Critter and Busy World of Richard Scarry fall into the same target demographic. I don't know what the requirements would be between those two. If you wanted to write different story types, If you did something like The Busy World of Richard Scarry, I don't know that the publishing house, I don't know who the publishing house is. Um, I don't know. I don't know who, is it HarperCollins?
No
Maybe.
idea.
But who the publishing house for Little Critter may not be the same publishing house for The Busy World of Richard Scarry. And it doesn't matter that even if you did books as good as Little World of Richard Scarry, the publishing house for Little Critter may not publish them. They might just reject him outright and be like, nope, not the type of book we're looking for.
Yep.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's very specialized.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are some publishing houses for children's books that do a little more broad stuff. But think of the millions and millions of children's books that are out there. And I as many people as we've come in contact with through our writing process who have written books, how many people do you know just in general that have been like, I think I want to write a children's book? Like, I don't know if you've come across a lot, but
Yeah, a lot of them.
like a lot of people that they're like, I want to write a children's book. And a lot of them try. A lot of them do. I don't know what the percentage is of people that try to get published, but if you're thinking about from a word count perspective, look at the, there's a difference.
Yeah.
This one still takes a lot of work, but from a developmental perspective, just with the sheer competition that you're looking at for submissions and people trying to get books published, all of the words in Duncan the Dragon Finds His Fire are less than the words on probably one page of our book. That's not to say Monica or not to say Lynn Combs hasn't done like a good job and a lot of work and gone into writing this and creating it, but it does open it up to children's publishing. They're going to get millions and millions of people trying to publish. So that means they have a lot more to sift through. It also means they have more flexibility to be like, nope, you're out. Nope, you're out. Nope, you're out. And they set the criteria of it's got to be exactly this. Like, oh, I'm only one word off. Yep. Gone.
Yep.
Another one, and we're just kind of going through books. I'm waxing nostalgic a little bit here because we're talking about children's books.
Yeah.
Did you ever read the Little Bear books?
Yeah, I think so.
So, Happy Birthday Moon. I don't know if Happy Birthday Moon is exactly, it just kind of made me think of, is it Happy? I thought it was a different one.
What?
Because there's Little Bear goes to visits the moon, and it's Little Bear and his imagination and all the things that he does. But there's one Happy Birthday Moon where the little bear climbs up in the tree and he's like talking to the moon. And then he has a hat, like it looks like a top hat, and he climbs up and he puts it in the tree. He's talking and it's his birthday. And then the moon, like I don't remember, I think he's hearing an echo or something. He's like, it's my birthday today. And then there's an echo that's like, it's my birthday today. And he's like, oh, well, and he goes and gets a hat and he puts it up in a tree. And then when he looks out the window, the moon like perfectly aligns with where he put the hat. And then he's like, look, the hat fits perfectly. And then at some point, somehow the hat falls down and the bear comes out and he's like, oh, you got me a hat too. And he puts the hat on and he's like, yay, we both got each other birthday presents. It's the same hat.
Not familiar with that one.
But then there's the Little Bear books.
Mm-hmm.
And those ones are a little bit, they're a different one. Like it's the one, how do you pronounce it? Elsie Holmelund Minarik. Is that the one that looks familiar to you? And there's Little Bear Goes to the Moon. And it's the little bear. He's got a box on his head. And his mom like talks to him about him being a silly bear. But she also, it's very encouraging of him using his imagination. You know, do you have this? The drawings are like very detailed but simplistic. They're just little bits of color here and there. The mama bear's in her dress. Little bear goes to the moon.
He's got a box on his head.
Yeah, he's got the white box on his head, and it's got little things on it, and that's his spacesuit hat. It says, "I'm going to fly away to the moon," said Little Bear. Yeah, so just like one little page out of here. "I have a new space helmet. I'm going to the moon," said Little Bear to Mother Bear. "How?" asked Mother Bear. You know, and then it's the Mother Bear's always like, "Oh, how are you going to do that?" You know, there's a bunch of little different stories. That's just Little Bear Going to the Moon is one of them. But the mother, like in that book, I remember the mother is always like very, very inquisitive, encouraging of him using his imagination. But also sometimes she says stuff and you're like, well, that was a slap of reality, you know, right in the Little Bear's face. But yeah, they're like, again, we're shifting here. The Little Bear books, they don't have a lot of words on them, but they have more words than the Mercer Mayer Little Critter books. So you go from Busy World of Richard Scarry that are mostly pictures, and you try to find Little Yellow Bug. And then you go to Mercer Mayer, Little Critter, and you get story, but now it's got a little spider and a little mouse. That those are like the little critter's constant companions throughout the book. They're always hiding somewhere. I don't remember if they're in every illustration, but they're constant throughout the book. They don't really, they have nothing to do with the story. They're just always there with Little Critter, somewhere in his room, somewhere in the house, the little big-eyed spider and the little mouse. And then you jump up to the Little Bear books. And now, again, totally different illustration type. You start getting just a few more words. Still simple statements, simple. A lot of it's dialogue back and forth between Mama Bear and Little Bear, or Little Bear, I guess, monologuing about what he's going to do. You know, I'm going to do blah, 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 whatever. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. You know, he goes to see his grandfather in different books. There's all these different books with Little Bear. And I remember, I don't know how many of them were out when I was a kid, but I remember having them and reading them and really enjoying them as a kid. And it's funny that even looking at that little phrase, pulling up that page, I haven't looked at these books in forever. Pulling up that page with that one Little Bear book, I'm like, I want to go read a Little Bear book again. You know? I want some hot chocolate and a warm blanket and to sit somewhere cozy and read about Little Bear going to the moon. And it's been long enough. I don't remember all the details of how he got there. Did you ever read Owl at Home?
Owl at Home? I don't think so.
So there's a couple. This one was always like, I always found it hilarious reading it, even when I was little. There's different stories, but the one that I always found hilarious, like you'd think of like the wise old owl. Well, Owl needs to make some tea, but he realizes he doesn't have any water for his tea. And not having water for his tea makes him kind of sad. So then he starts thinking about all the things that make him sad. Like a chipped pot or like a chipped teacup or a cracked plate or just like total random little things like that. And those things make him sad enough that tears come to his eyes, and he holds up his teapot and he collects his tears in his teapot till he has enough that he's like, oh, now I can make some tea. You're like, what in the world is going on? Like, there's a picture I can pull up right here, but I remember it being, even as a kid, I loved reading it, but I also thought it was hilarious, like the things that make Owl at home scared, or the things that made him sad, or the fact that he wanted to make tea, so he cried into his teapot until he had enough tears to make tea. Plus, even as a kid, I'm like, wait a minute, wouldn't that be really salty? What? I don't know. Maybe owls don't have salty tears.
Who knows?
Yeah, like the strange bumps in the night that Owl gets scared of. Owl was in bed. It is time to blow out the candle and go to sleep, he said with a yawn. Then Owl saw 2 bumps. Oh no, it wasn't noises. He saw 2 bumps under the blanket at the bottom of his bed. What could those strange bumps be? Asked Owl. Well, then you go on and I'm like, he shifts and he tries to do things like, oh no, the bump's getting closer. It's moving. And it's all the stuff that's scaring. It's his feet.
Yeah.
Under the end of the bed. Like, very creative, very fun. I still, again, just waxing nostalgic over children's literature. So I don't know whether it says something about me or says something about children's literature, but it can definitely have an impression on you.
Yes.
And again, I would place, just going up the scale, it's still a kid's book, but the book about Owl would be up a level from the Mercer Mayer Little Critter books. It starts using bigger words. It starts talking about bigger ideas. Little Critters has issues with, like, he's got to brush his teeth. He's supposed to take a nap. He's supposed to clean up his room. He's supposed to do, like, little things like that. Little Bear, well, I guess this would even be above Little Bear. Little Bear starts, he's playing with things and he's using his imagination and his mom's talking to him. Now Owl starts talking more, getting more into, just ideas of things, like what
abstract.
Gets into abstract concepts of what makes you scared. What are those bumps under what could they be? Oh no, how are they moving? I got to do some problem solving, like make myself cry into the teapot.
Mm-hmm.
But a pretty big jump, and I started reading some of these books, I don't know, second grade, first grade, second grade, maybe. The Roald Dahl books, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, Witches. I remember reading Witches when I was really little. Who wrote like Mouse and the Motorcycle? Do you know who? I'm not sure. Jared's going to look that up, but
Beverly Cleary.
Beverly Cleary. Yeah. So the Beverly Cleary books, I don't know what age group she targets. I was reading them, 6, 7, 8, right in that range. Started reading the Beverly Cleary books, and then along with that, I think it was in maybe first or second grade when I read Hatchet. I really liked the Hatchet books. Oh shoot, now I can't think of that author that wrote Hatchet. Gary Paulsen. So I read Hatchet, and then there was, I can't remember, I don't remember if it was written, it was like part 2. No, that's not, if you search for Hatchet part 2, you get a movie, Hatchet part 2, where Mary Beth escapes the clutches of the Bayou Butcher.
Yeah.
I'm like, not the Hatchet.
Yeah, not what we're thinking of.
Not that I was thinking of. But I don't think the other book was I didn't think it was written by Gary Paulsen, but so I mean there's other Hatchet books. The one I'm specifically thinking of
The River, Brian's Winter.
No, that I mean, there's that one, but there's another book that's very much along the line. So Hatchet in the book Hatchet, the boy is flying. I don't remember who he's flying with in the air in a small aircraft, and the airplane crashes, and he survives. The pilot doesn't, and it's just him in the airplane with the pilot. The pilot doesn't survive, and he's got to survive on his own, and he has a hatchet. And he's pretty young, he figures out how to like make fire, use the hatchet to chip on flint. He finds flint, is able to make fire. Like the first thing he hunts, I think, is a porcupine, and he uses the hatchet and he gets stuck by the quills and stuff like that. But the story is him surviving and him having to go back. He has to go back, realizes he needs supplies. Maybe there's something in the plane he could use. He's close by there. He goes back, and there's the body of the person, the pilot's still in there, and he's freaked out about that and stuff. So it deals with some themes, but it's still written for I would say the target age is still a fairly young age. But there's another book very much along those lines, and it's about a girl who takes a boat and go like a really small like rowboat and rows way out to this island, and then she gets stuck out in the island, so like she's made fun of and stuff like that, and she wants to like get away, so she rows out to this island. Well, then she gets stuck out there, and it's the same type of scenario. She's got to learn to survive on her own. She stays on the island, survives on her island, survives on that island for a long time, and then eventually, it's not like years and years and years, but it's a pretty significant amount of time. Those survival books, I think I read both of those in second or third grade, and I started getting into those. I read some of the Hardy Boys books and the Boxcar Children books, but my sister introduced me to the Lord of the Rings books. She introduced me to, she was reading Wrinkle in Time, and I was like, well, what's that all about? So I started reading them, and so I started reading bigger books pretty quick, and then took off from there. Reading books that, but in the mix, I mean, I still like reading. I still read Roald Dahl books today. Going back and revisiting those. So as the Fantastic Mr. Fox, I need to read the book Fantastic Mr. Fox because I haven't yet, but I love the movie.
Yes, it's pretty good.
Foxy, you shouldn't buy this house. I appreciate your advice, but I'm going to buy it. The cuss you are. The cuss I'm not. Are you cussing at me? It's hilarious. But yeah, that's Fantastic Mr. Fox is a Roald Dahl story. I need to go back and actually read it. But I love the other Roald Dahl books. But again, that progression, you start getting into those books like that, and there's more flexibility, but there's still, you compare like the size of our book to, our word count is like 3 Roald Dahl books. This is like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Witches and BFG all put together to reach our book, So depending on how much you want to write, how much you want to put in, there are still criteria, but the criteria gets a little bit more flexible as the age increases, and it goes less picture books, less introductory, and now you're starting to tell stories and create worlds and things like that. So figure out, if you are going to write a story, what's the story you want to tell? Who are you trying to tell it to? And then what's the criteria centered around the demographic that you're going to try to write to. Even from if you have an idea of the type of illustrations, there are some publishing companies that they want all your stuff with illustrations and everything. And then they'll tweak it and suggest edits or make edits or whatever if they're going to publish you. Some of them are, we want a word count. We have our own illustrators. If you submit it with illustrations, automatic rejection. So it just depends. Some of them are really strict on certain areas and flexible on others. You just got to figure out what it is you're going for. Try to align with somebody, or take the approach of gain that education on what some of the things are that exist out there, and then figure out how you're going to do it on your own. So because there are a lot of outlets for self-publication that you can do. So I wanted to shift into, I've got my stories pulled up here. One's a little shorter, one's than the other. They're both written in rhyme. They're both in the process of being edited, but I don't mind sharing the story. I wrote both of these it was either 1997 or 1998. So it's been a very long time ago.
A little bit.
That I wrote these. I just never, and like I said, I had them all published. I had the illustrations done out for them and everything. I had them in a book form, but it was, paper, handwritten, hand-drawn, stapled together of, okay, here's what everything's going to look like. And then I was going to try to get it published. I have no idea what happened to those things. So now I get to start over, but that's okay, because I need to rework them anyway. And do some edits, revisions, because that's the writing process.
Yeah.
So the first one was I'm trying to get my daughter over there. I think she's still over there across the room, to do some illustrations for me, and I want to try to get this one published. There's still some rewriting that I want to do, but in this one, like I had it pictured as a little girl, what I had drawn originally, a little girl in a purple dress standing in front of a mirror. She's got her hands on her hips. She's got big round glasses and giant puffy red hair. Picture cartoon, really skinny, like stick, not a stick figure, but stick skinny little girl. She's looking in the mirror. She's got a big frown on her face. And the story begins with her looking in the mirror. She says, "When I look at me, what do I see? I see me, and me is something I don't want to be. I look to see what I could be, or what could be me instead of me. Instead of me, I could be a bird in a tree. Yes, that's what I'd be." And as she goes through this, she wants to be that bird in a tree. And the illustration I had was, there's a tree, there's a bird up in a tree, and the bird in the tree has a big smile on its beak, and it has big red puffy hair and giant glasses. And then, no, that couldn't be, because then you see, if it rained, it would fall on me. And then the next picture is same bird, same tree, same red hair, same glasses, but now it's frowning and the hair is all matted and hanging down. And it's not a happy day getting rained on. So every one of these pictures, everything she thinks she could be, and everything that happens that causes her to doubt, it's the same. It's her in that form. So, well, instead of me, how about a bee? I'd have big eyes and make a noise like a Z. But I couldn't be a bee. No, that wouldn't please me, because bees only eat yellow honey. But I could be a big turkey with colorful feathers all over me. A turkey, no, I couldn't be. Thanksgiving would be the end of me. And again, you see, everything ends in E. That's kind of what I was going for. Everything, it rhymes in E. I know what I'd be. I'd be a monkey high up in a tree where all could see me. No, not a monkey. That's not what I'd be. All of the tigers would chase after me. A fish in the sea. Yes, that's what I'd be, with colorful scales all wet and shiny. And then that's where the fish was a new one that I added. And Not a fish. That wouldn't suit me. Fishermen would try to catch and eat me. And then I thought about, extending it out a little longer. Other possibilities are a fish in the sea. The fisherman would catch me, a deer running free, a cute little flea, a dog would scratch me, a cuddly puppy, a cute chickadee, a blue-footed booby, a rabbit all fluffy, a worm all slimy, an alligator all swampy, a croc all scaly, a bear all fuzzy, a leopard all spotty, trying to think of all the different things she could be and the reasons, all these reasons that something ends up happening every time of, nope, that's not bad. And then the big thing is I wanted to come up with an actual lesson, because when I just ended it and said, well, I've looked to see what I could be if I could be something instead of me. But everything I thought to be turned out to be quite scary. So when I look at me, I'm quite happy. So instead of looking for something else to be, I think I'll stay my good old me. Mike, well, I think I could do better. I don't have the lesson part wrapped into it yet. That's what I originally had it written, but my rewrite is I'm trying to write, what's the lesson? And the lesson I want it to be isn't that, well, all these other things are worse. But I want to spin it to say, like, when you're just comparing, she's just comparing, and like the lesson from a child is to teach a child is, well, you could be something else, and that other something could be worse. You're still kind of crappy, but at least you're not that,
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get rained on and have to live in the tree or have tigers chase you or anything like that. I want the lesson to actually be, no, I'm good enough to be me. So that's the part I'm still trying to tweak for, what I was going to do when I first wrote it a long time ago was more generic. Now I'm like, well, I want to put a more positive spin on it, that she finds a reason to be happy to be her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, I want to stay good old me. I'm good enough to be me. So we'll see where that one goes.
Yeah.
Because it's got a little bit of work. The other one, I think I like where it ended up, but pacing. Where I'm at right now, I'm working through the stanzas because it's another rhyming book. I actually wrote this. I had the challenge to write an epic poem. And the epic, it's got to tell a complete story. So I wrote this epic poem, and then I was like, I should turn this into a children's book. What the crap? But I haven't yet. And this one, at the moment, it is The Great Cookie Caper. And this one, again, I had it drawn up. It's a baby. I had pictures of the baby and all the little scenes that he was going through and whatnot. And now I'm going through from a poem perspective, especially with children's books. One of the things I've learned, I had my pacing, like my stanzas. It needs to be da 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 da. And if you set that up, if that's the rhythm of each stanza, da 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 da. Every stanza needs to be exactly that. It can't vary between those. And then so I'm going for like a 13, 14 syllable pattern. And I'm editing through, and then some of it is, well, some of the words I've used might be too big. I need to, if it's a book that's going to be read to kids, that's different than if kids are reading it on their own. Still, I'm working on getting the pacing correct so that every stanza matches that, has that exact same rhythm every single time. And then I had a bunch of rhymes that were close. And that's where I got that feedback of, that's where I first got that feedback of, well, from a children's book perspective, don't do close rhymes. Especially if you're targeting with a publisher, unless it's like just amazing off, out of this world. You got to try to go for exact rhymes, not close rhymes. So I'm still working on some of that. When I say working on both of these, we're working on book 2. So when I'm working on this, I really mean like it's in the back of my mind, and someday I'll do this again.
Yeah.
So the Great Cookie Caper is: in a land not far away, there lived a baby boy, the bravest child you ever saw, his parents' pride and joy. His hair was thick and curly, a mop upon his head, muddy brown with shades of blonde, and had a hint of red. His eyes were bright and blue, and he always wore a grin, with a face so round and chubby it had a double chin. He could crawl and did it well, as babies often do. He'd crawl his way around the house in search of something new. One day, while on a mission to climb a kitchen chair, he looked up at the counter and saw something great up there. It sparkled in the kitchen light, shining like a star, an awesome sight for him to see, a brand new cookie jar. A grin grew on his face, in his eyes there shone a light. His baby mind made a plan to nab the cookies that night. The house was dark and quiet, his parents were in bed. He sat up in his little crib, cookie thoughts in his head. With his chubby arms and legs he climbed over the rail. Determination on his face, he knew he would not fail. By the glow of his nightlight he crawled across the floor. Suddenly he was struck with fear. His teddy blocked the door. He swallowed the lump in his throat and crawled over to the bear. Then he jumped on top of it and tried to pull its hair. He wrestled with the monstrous toy, biting it as he did. Then with a grunt and a mighty push, out the door he slid. Sweat formed on his little brow as he made his way down the hall, for from the edge of the kitchen door he could see a puppy paw. This challenge would be the toughest yet to distract the drooling beast, for if it barked his parents would wake, and he'd have no cookie feast. From inside his little jammies he pulled a piece of bread. He'd snuck it there during supper when his mommy turned her head. He pulled it out with one hand, and with the other he patted the floor. When the puppy stepped around the corner, he threw the bread through the bathroom door. Out jumped the puppy, quick as a whip, and after the bread it ran. Then quickly the baby shut the door, but was careful it did not slam. Now there was only one more task left for him to complete. If he climbed on a chair, then onto the counter, the cookies would be his treat. He crawled to the chair with the baby seat and pushed as hard as he could, and slowly, with a little squeak, it moved from where it stood. Now the chair was inches away from where it needed to be, but up from above, not straight on the chair, down came the baby seat. With a crash it hit the floor. It made the baby jump. Then it slid across the floor and hit the wall with a bump. On came the light as his mother rushed in, still in her pink nightgown, and he realized he'd get no cookies as she picked him up off the ground. A sad look appeared on his face as he looked in his mother's eyes. Then he looked at the cookie jar and softly began to cry. Seeing her baby's quiet tears, his mother knew what to do. She went to the counter and took out a cookie and said, "This one's just for you." With a smile on his face and a cookie in hand, he was placed back in his bed. He ate the cookie with satisfaction and laid down his little head. Happily he fell asleep, thinking of one thing. After an adventure this exciting, what would tomorrow bring? So,
Yeah.
It's not Shakespeare,
No,
but
it's got the good workings.
so I think the bones are there. You can tell there's like, I've got some of the pacing's a little bit off, and I had to kind of like force my way through it a little bit. But it's a work in progress. I'm going to clean up some of the words, run through the pacing again, and then it's on to illustrations and see if I can get the Cookie Caper published. So we'll see. Then, but the bigger one is finish book 2.
Yes.
I mean, these have been on the shelf for, what is that? 27 years? So 27, 28 years. A little bit longer on the shelf. It's not going to hurt them. But we shall see. We shall see. Sometime we'll get them published. Like I said, trying to have my daughter go through and do illustrations for me. And then we'll put them together. See if we can get a book out. And then I can be right here with Lynn Combs and be like, "Lynn, let's go read our stories together to children and do book signings together."
Yeah.
Someday we'll get there. So that's we wanted to have discussion, a little bit of talk through on children's literature. Walk down that nostalgia road, walk through what are things, what are things that are going on in our world? And then if you want to get in, if you're a writer, you want to be an author, you want to be an illustrator, you want to have something published in the children's world, there are some things to navigate. And as Lynn talked about when she was on the show, it's good to learn them. And definitely, as Lynn said, she doesn't know if she'll write another children's book. She has some ideas. She has some thoughts, even with Duncan the Dragon. She'll see where it goes. She hadn't planned on writing a children's book, but it worked, so she did. But there are some things that you have to navigate depending on what you're targeting. So we're not experts.
No, not at all.
But we're perfectly willing to share our experiences and our opinion on things. So if nothing else, hopefully, maybe this helped you walk down the road of nostalgia and you're like, yeah, I want to go back and read about Owl at Home too. I want to read Stone Soup again. I haven't read that in a long time. I mean, since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like that was a fun story too. And even as a kid, I remember reading Stone Soup and I was like, dude, he just tricked all the people into giving him free food.
Yep.
Like, yeah, they were happy afterward, but I'm pretty sure that was not his motivation. Pretty sure his motivation was, I think I can take these people's animosity toward each other and manipulate them into making me soup. And my contribution will be rocks.
Yep.
Yeah. Talk about a salesman, right? We need him to market our books for us.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for coming along with us today. We appreciate you, as always, joining along, going along for the ride. We'll keep updates. We'll see. We got to get book 2 over to Liz. We'll let you know when we have a date ready. Again, look for us at Tremendicon. If you can, go get tickets. Go visit Tremendicon. They have some cool stuff there. Always fun booths. A lot of different creators in all different varieties and mediums of artistic works and creativity that you'll see there. We had fun last year. Sure, we'll have fun again this year.
Oh yeah, it's always a blast.
So go check out Tremendicon. Again, author LynnCombs.com. Go check out Duncan
Actually,
the
it's
Dragon.
not author. It's just Lynn Combs.
Oh, it's not author Lynn Combs.
Her old one was author.
The old one was author Lynn Combs. So LynnCombs.com. Go check that out. Get a copy of Duncan the Dragon Finds His Fire. And hopefully sometime in the not too distant future, you'll see The Great Cookie Caper and whatever the other one, When I Look at Me, or whatever the title for that one's going to be. Maybe those will come out. So thanks for joining us. Till next time, go in good spirits. Thanks for listening to the Creators Guild podcast. Don't forget to get your copy of A Flight from Shadows, available on Amazon. While you're there, please rate it and give it a review. If you like the Creators Guild, please like and subscribe, and make sure to share it with your friends. Until next time, go in good spirits.